show number 41.
You up to 41, Joe?
Yes. Monday's program. All right, so it's Saturday night here in Australia on July the 5th, recording for Monday. And another amazing PowerPoint. I'm screen capturing this so you can catch it over at the YouTube channel. So speaking on behalf of the Christ, I have to make myself perfectly clear. Astrology is part of creation. The Catholic Church has long been under the control of the Talmud and therefore Babylonian Jews. Protestant objections to the Roman Catholic Church, although genuine in the minds of the masses, are themselves Freemasonry, which is also of the same Talmudic Babylonian Jews. True Jews do not exist. The term Jew is a slang term originating in the Book of Esther. The Book of Esther is the only book not in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Judah is a tribe, and I was not a Jew. I was and am an Essene. The astrology, one must agree, is the position of the stars, and therefore the Star of Bethlehem was an alignment between Jupiter and Venus. The Bible is completely dominated by the same Babylonian Talmudic Jews. The churches, therefore, being demonic, change the meaning and representations of the planets, stars, and constellations. But before explaining astrology and how the heavens are entirely a witness to the first and the second coming of Yahweh, look at the following to mislead you to think I was a Jew. That is the message, although it is overshadowed by the message of Jesus as a Jew. Listen carefully. It's all bullshit. The verses are from John 4, reading verse 5. Then cometh he to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near to the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Clarifying in the brackets, these are the words of the Christ. Invented Jacob, according to the myth, did not meet Joseph again until he went to Egypt and died there after bequeathing the inheritance to Ephraim. Verse 6, now Jacob's well was there. Jesus, therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus saith unto her, give me to drink. For his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Again, the words of the Christ from the Talmud. No non-Jews can drink of Jacob's well. Therefore was avoided totally, if it was true. Jesus was an Essene and a healer of all, no distinction, and did not eat meat. The disciples going to buy meat is a distraction. Continuing, then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that thou, being a Jew, again the words of the Christ, not a Jew, an Essene, asketh drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? The Christ, Jews hate all non-Babylonian Jews, for the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. 10, Jesus answered and said unto her, if thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. In brackets, this is the lure, Jesus indicating he is God. Continuing, remembering that Essenes do not eat meat. The woman saith unto him, sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself and his children and his cattle? The Samaritan is saying, they are also of Jacob. Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. Reiterating, an Essene did not eat meat. Israel, 10 tribes, is a Babylonian myth. Jesus did not correct her. She said Jew. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob is a myth. The genetics are Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah. So the entire Gospels have been manipulated to confirm Israel by the editors of what books were actually considered by the church. Likewise, astrology, being the creation, indicates Venus is Lucifer. In modern translations, Lucifer has been removed. Now, the new Pope Francis was presiding over a hymn sung in St. Peter's Basilica and ordered the hymn be sung in all churches with each Mass. The following is the word Lucifer in the original KJV 1611 and the Rupert Murdoch New International Version of the Bible. Reading Isaiah 14:12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? So the KJV has an English gematria of 1274. The word dianu from 1223 and anuo to effect, to accomplish, thoroughly, finish. However, the abominable NIV, owned by an abomination, Rupert Murdoch, quoting, How you have fallen from heaven, O morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. Has an English gematria of 1294 from 1223 and 4762, and so it's describing what has exactly taken place to distort, misinterpret, or morally corrupt, perverse, turn away. And that's what the NIV, all of the revisionist translations are. And Essene did not eat meat. Israel, 10 tribes, is Babylonian myth. Jesus did not correct her. She said Jew. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob is a myth. The genetics are Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and Noah. And if you read thoroughly the Nihilist report, it speaks specifically describing the protocols of Zion. It speaks specifically about annihilating the sons of Noah. The Bible is a complete deception intended to cause disunity and confusion among the Christian masses with a question: how the Lord of the Old Testament Torah, the laws of Moses, and other myths could possibly be the Lord God the Father within Jesus, who himself was crucified for making such a claim. Blasphemy, the penalty, the death penalty for claiming to be the Father. Now, the Stars and the Bible Dictionary, that is the Concordance, James Strong's 1830, is an obvious tool scholars would organise to assist the deluded scholars to interpret and confirm translations, unaware the Creator is smarter than even the experts give me credit for. All believe the Word of God is the Lucifer Bible, even though it was assembled by the deluded in the Catholic demonised saints, then further translating the same books into the English abomination. That is why I have not read it. Now, going back to astrology, on the rebirth date of the Christ, January 11th, 1944, he was born at 2:22 a.m. However, on his birthday at 12 noon, Sydney, Australia, the distance in astronomical units from Jupiter, which is 88,800 miles wide and is the Jesus planet for that reason, 888 being Jesus in Greek gematria. So the measure from Jupiter to Saturn, Mars and Mercury totals 1694 astronomical units. 1694 in the Greek concordance is the word Emmanuel, God with us. Found in Matthew 1:23, which has a gematria of 8,880 for the verse, as days is the age that the Christ was when his first daughter, Tracy Lee, was born on May the 4th, 1968 in Port Alberni, Canada, when the sun over Port Alberni was up for 888 minutes. The sunrise to moonrise was 888 minutes. The sunrise was actually 855, and then the moonrise 33 minutes later. The conception date of Tracy on July the 29th, 1967, Jupiter was overhead for 888 minutes. Astrology is not subject to alteration when the astronomy programs are not reliant on live connection to the programs on the internet. This is why I warn never to trust Google Earth or online concordances. Now, as horrifying as it was, being reborn to the earth as God, the Comforter is not an open debate. In fact, it is a winnowing of separating the mountain of tares from the handful of wheat, for it is not an election. I'll read that again. Now, as horrifying as it was, being reborn to the earth as God the Comforter is not an open debate. In fact, it is a winnowing of separating the mountain of tares from the handful of wheat, for it is not an election. The churches, being dominated by Babylonian Jews, emerged as the dominant force when infiltrated into the churches via dipped Jews of Khazaria genetically. Dipped meaning baptized, right? The stupidity of the Jesus myth, it's not that Jesus was a myth, Jesus was very real. What was a myth was his supposed words to forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. I say indeed they knew precisely what they did and do, and I above all do not forgive them in any way, shape or form. In fact, Pope Benedict XVI wanted me to forgive Francis. Benedict is a saint and literally believes I would. Big mistake. He is a perfect pope as long as the rod of iron hovers overhead. My daughter Tracy Lee was conceived on July the 29th, 1967. Below are the distances from Jupiter at midnight on that date over Port Alberni, Canada. You will see in the next slide the perfection of my action, regardless of the revulsion I felt for her mother. You can see the measure of Jupiter to the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Earth, Saturn, total 42.87 astronomical units. 4287 is found in Galatians 4:2, quoting, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. So 4287 from 4253 is fixed beforehand, a designated day, time appointed. Those of you who are familiar with how I do these things will recall when I was reborn, the numbers in space reveal the distances from Jupiter to Saturn inwards to the Sun was 31.68 astronomical units. Look at and study the picture and the 3168 number and how it ties in with Pope Benedict XVI. Going over this again, there are 8,674 words in the Old Testament. If we nominate this as 8.674 years, it converts to 3168 days. Or times 10, 86.74 years, which was the age of Benedict XVI on January the 11th, 2014. That was the 70th birthday of the Christ. There are 5,624 words in the Greek New Testament. When you subtract the New Testament from the Old Testament numbers, the difference is 3050. 3050 is the word Yah, found only once in the Old Testament. This is an indication that the New Testament has removed Yah. It is found in Psalms 68.4. Sing unto God, sing praises to his name. Extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name, Yah, and rejoice before him. Yah, of course, is the name that the Essenes call the Creator, the Father, Yah, Yahshua, Yah. Now, the distances from Jupiter to Saturn plus Mars and Mercury total 16.94 astronomical units. Again, that is the number for the name Emmanuel, 1694 in the Greek, leading right over to Matthew 1:23. And this, of course, is on the rebirth date of the Christ, January the 11th, 1944. We put it with the duration in minutes for each over Sydney on January the 11th, 1944. Jupiter was overhead 642 minutes. Venus 829 minutes. Here we see how the stars are a prophecy. When we add Venus 829 and Jupiter 642, they total 1471, which is what? To Eileen family home, oh, it's all right, I'll put that back. I thought I was... The top there, you'll see Eileen family home. And then on the right, my family home, and then the lower left, Michelle, who is Mary Magdalene, her home. The distance between the three sides added together totals 1471 kilometres. Just one verse it is found, Luke 2:5, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. Child in the Greek dictionary is 1471 from 1722, and the base of 2949, swelling inside, that is pregnant, great with child.
Espoused wife means not married yet, so she was great with child.
Right. Okay, so espoused wife, meaning not married yet, but great with child because she had conceived of the Holy Ghost. Again, Luke 2:5, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child, pregnant, great with child, indicating my mother, Mary, great with child, and then Eileen with my children, and these all align with Michelle's child and herself via the distances combined. God measures his temple. Here's Mars, 585 on the rebirth date of the Christ, January 11th, 1944. The moon was full. Neptune 720 minutes, Pluto 583 minutes, Uranus 602 minutes. There's Jupiter again, 642 minutes. Now the Sun, 855 minutes, and then 33 minutes later was the moonrise. Again, Venus, 829. Now, what's that? Yes, the sunrise to moonrise for 888 minutes. Now here is M42. It was up for 741 minutes. Since then, M42 has gone out. So the distances from Jupiter to Uranus, Neptune and Pluto total 77.71 astronomical units, and then changes to 77.7 on that date. So we're talking January the 11th, 1944. Lamech lived 777 years. And the age difference between my youngest daughter and youngest stepdaughter is 777 days, which is 2.127 years. 2127 is the number for Zia from 1 Chronicles 5:13, and on it goes. In addition to the Jupiter duration added to the Venus duration, producing 1471, Mary great with child, we have the distances to Venus at 504 plus Saturn 7.47 plus Earth measured from Jupiter, total 1694, the Emmanuel prophecy. 1694, Emmanuel means God with us. Here's the KJV 1611, 123, Matthew. Behold, a virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. Has a gematria, this is an English gematria of 1204. When compared, the 8,880 gematria is Greek, isn't it? Greek gematria for 8880 of Matthew 123. Yeah. So when compared to the New International Version, the NIV, quoting, the virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us, has an English gematria of 1038. And the name has been changed to Emmanuel, spelt with an I, which equals 88. The Old Testament spelling, when Emmanuel is 84, the gematria for Marshall. As said in previous uploads, King James was well aware his genetics were secondary to Marshall and Golightly, 84 and 115. For Golightly, the 115 equals the verse total for the word Sabbath, spelt with a lowercase, for Christ to reveal. Here is the NIV quoting Matthew 12:1. At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry and began to pick some heads of grain and eat them, for an English gematria of 1250 and a capital S. The 1611 King James reads, at that time Jesus went on the Sabbath, small f, s, day, through the corn, and his disciples were an hungered, and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat, for a total of 1245 English gematria, which in the concordance is diakatharizo from 1223 and 2511 to cleanse perfectly, that is, specially winnow, thoroughly purge, which is the word you just heard a few slides back, about what is to take place, the gathering of the tares and separating them from the wheat. It's a winnowing. Inspiration comes from creation so that I can recall each detail, which on the human level must be in tune with current events. Often I hold back information because it is necessary to reveal these miracles strategically. It is written that all things I have done could not be written in all the books of the world, quoting from John 21:25. And there are also many other things which Jesus did, the which, if they should be written every one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that should be written. Amen. This verse has an English gematria of 1888. Now you are all familiar with the thief hanging by my side and paradise. From Luke 23:43, quoting, "And Jesus said unto him, Verily I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise," has an English gematria of 849, which leads to 2 Corinthians 12:4. How that he was caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable words, which it is not lawful for a man to utter. That verse has an English gematria of 1039. So when you add them both together, they total 1888. You have been listening to Adam in these last 2 weeks, talking to the world about his love for Claudia, my Christmas present in 2010. Claudia was born on May the 13th, 513. We've just been talking about 1 Chronicles 5:13. In 1992, Claudia was 18.88 years old when she joined us in Fiji on April the 3rd, 2011. We were staying at a resort called Mumu in Savu Savu, which the locals call the Hidden Paradise. April the 3rd, 2011 was the anniversary of the crucifixion. So her birthday, May 13th, 1992, aligns, as I said, with 1 Chronicles 5:13. Claudia is 49.10. She was born 49.10 years from my conception, April the 6th, 1943. Adam is 410 days older than Claudia. 4910 is Marshall, my name, and 410 is El, shortened from 352, the Almighty God.
It's also
Genesis
Genesis 41:10.
41:10?
49:10.
Oh, 49:10, yes.
You will rule them with a rod of iron.
Yes, Genesis 49:10. It's all about when Shiloh comes and he will rule them with a rod of iron. He's the Marshal. So, this is the last slide of this brief PowerPoint as the Christ continues to reveal to a lost and darkened world that is going through his judgment, as things intensify around the globe, the events in the Ukraine and Europe, radiation pouring out from Fukushima, just like the angel of death, passing over all of the northern hemisphere, brought to you by the USA and Israel. The Stuxnet virus was invented by the USA in the USA and placed through a flash drive into the computers at Fukushima by the typical Israeli security firms that are known to be destroyers wherever.
CIA,
Yes. CIA, George Bush, Skull and Bones, but Obama. So Obama has confirmed Joan Rivers has spilled. Well, I mean, you know, she's a Jew, for God's sake, comedian, ugly as. What, 81 years old is she, or 83? Or how? 11 years. Right, okay, so she's 11 years older than you. So she's 81, had so many facelifts, she's looking like a...
She says, so many facelifts, she shaves.
And so she's spilled the beans. The world can stop guessing now. Obama is totally gay and Michelle is a transgender. She is a bloke. So, hallelujah, the end is nigh. All right, we're away with the second part of show 41. Do we have to do it quickly so John can get it up?
How long we got for this one?
Oh, just 28, about 25 minutes.
Well, that's heaps. What I'm working on at the moment, which is very, very, very interesting. Those of you who have been watching the YouTubes will know that I put a great deal of effort into measuring this and that. And the central focal point of measuring the stars in my lifetime, as you know, has been Pluto. Now, Pluto is unusual in the sense that on the 24th of August 2006, they decided not to make it a planet anymore. Now, how insane is that? It's got 5 moons. It is quite phenomenal in the distances. For example, throughout the century, or in my lifetime, the distances to Jupiter and to Neptune and to Saturn, to Uranus, the Sun, the Earth, Mars, Venus and Mercury have all ranged between the numbers that I've suggested as being sacred, 31.68 nautical astronomical units. They have it on key dates. At one stage there, its perihelion was the 7th of February to 1979 for 10 years, which is 20 years rather, and 4 days. So 204 is the capstone number. So 20 and 4 days. Out to the 11th of February in the year 1999. Now in that year, we had the last solar eclipse on the 11th of August 1999, which is another significant number in my life. It's the 222nd day of the year. It's also the birth date of my oldest granddaughter via Rhiannon, stepchild. So the numbers keep on creeping in and creeping out. Now, for example, in the perihelion, when it was approaching the perihelion point on the 7th of February 1979, the distance is receiving. So you're measuring in astronomical units and it's 30.28, and you look it up in Greek, and that's receiving. So it's coming into the closest where the perihelion is between two points in time, when it's closer in than Neptune.
To the sun, yeah.
To the sun.
Perihelion.
Perihelion.
Yeah.
Now when it's going out, it's meaning it's the distance is 30.14 astronomical units, and it's pushing away in Hebrew. So it's receiving in Greek, 20 years later, it's pushing away. So that's, you're reading the numbers. But then they've got to go and, but it's so stupid, draw attention to it by saying that on the 24th of August 2006, there's no longer a planet. It's got 5 moons. And when it has 5 moons, you can almost guarantee it's a planet. Like, what other specifications do you need? They're saying, oh, it's slightly too small to be a planet. Well, the moon's a planet. The moons of Saturn are planets. The moons of Jupiter are planets. It's planetoid. It means it's a planet, right? So here we have a planet with moons, and the moons are all sorts of names that I'm doing the gematria on them at the moment, and it's coming out to be very, very interesting what they mean. Now, Pluto itself, because it was named, this is like the god of the underworld, is what they're naming it. They could have called anything. They could have called it whatever. That doesn't matter. But they come up with the name of Pluto. So in the either there's a specific reason for it, or it is inspired by a divine spirit to do that. Now, you go to the Jesus coming as the Comforter, as the Lord himself. This is no longer the Jesus figure, it is the Yahweh figure, and called the Comforter, who's going to abide with you forever. And you can read that in the book of John 14, 15 and 16. 16:7 is quite interesting. That's the last one. And if you do the English gematria on that, it comes up with a word in Greek which is Advent, which is also the Comforter. It's just another word. It's the same number. And of course that's a distance from where I was born, or at the house I grew up in, until I was 942 days old, to the South Pole, 3875. So Advent is Comforter, and Comforter is Advent, same number. It also means the judge, because the judge comes to judge the earth and get rid of, and this is the problem that the Jews have. They know that they are rat shit, right? I've come to get them. Why? Well, it says his reward is with him. So you think, oh, good. It's like having a Christmas. We're going to get Chrissy presents. No. My reward is for deeds done. So your reward is a sentence. It's either good or it's bad. And the Jews have got a real big problem. Right? If you look up, just Google the sayings of the Talmud. And in particular, they make a statement that if the Goyim, that's you, find out what we think and do, and to them, to you, that you're an animal with hands, for example, placed on the earth to serve them, that even God debates a Jew and loses, this kind of thing. They talk about having sex with children, sacrificing children, but they say if you find out, that's you, find out what we do, you would kill us openly. That's why it is very important for the Jews to keep their mouths shut about what they actually do. So it is extraordinary. They get away with it because it's so diabolical. You don't think it's possible that human beings would think this way. But the point is, they're not human beings. They are custodians of the demons. Right? Now, they've infiltrated and taken over the Catholic Church. They're behind Freemasonry, which is now also in the Catholic Church. It's also the Church of England and all Protestant religions. Right? All of it. They've taken over the lot. We've got the Pope that has openly sworn an oath that he will tear out a baby from its mother's womb and smash its head against a wall. Can you imagine that being God allowing that to happen, and God being Jesus, and Jesus being the Comforter, and Comforter being me? I certainly am stunned by it. And some people might say, oh, why does God let all this evil happen? Well, I didn't. You did. I gave you free will. That's the problem. Now, there is a prophecy in Hindi that says Yahweh, Jehovah, will come to the earth. Now, there's also floating around the internet, where does the word come from? Well, it comes from here, it comes from there. It never says that it comes from Hinduism, right? The oldest religion. And where does that come from? That comes from the Essenes. Jesus was an Essene. I'm an Essene today. God is an Essene. That is why the language of the Hebrew and the Aramaic and the English are all tied together number-wise, because it is a beautiful synchronistic synergy of a dance of numbers and words, what it all means. That's why William Shakespeare was involved in the 1611 King James Bible. And you've got to realise, let's roll it back a bit. Let's say you are a king or a queen in a nation, and the nation has been taken over by another huge nation to the south, and it does all sorts of terrible things, like taking over your nation, and then by the lords and landowners of wealth, politicians, etc., in this larger nation, just like America. And they go in and they just take it over, and they'll take a bulldozer, for example, and if someone's in, they want the land, right? They want to grow sheep on it. And they'll run over with the bulldozer and crush everybody in the house, including men, women and little babies, right? No problem. This is what the English done to the Scottish. So by the time King James, by a miracle, became King of England and was asked to authorise the King James Bible, which is a manuscript, handwritten. What they did, they got, the number varies between 47 and 53 scholars, and in groups of 6 or whatever, they would check each other's work. They'd all translate the same thing and then cross-check to get it, see if they got it right. And they were pretty clever. There was Hebrew and Greek and Aramaic scholars. So they got it right. However, what they got right was already put into position of power by the Jews who had controlled the Catholic Church, who put the Bible together in the first place. Now, I've gone into why the dragon and so forth is identified by the Torah books. That's the 4 books of the Torah, not Genesis. How it identifies how many lords there are, and it comes up with 1404, and that's the word dragon. And this is what is in the book of Revelation, which is talking about now. So what we have then is a confusion over the entire earth. Religion is bullshit. Truth is what sets you free. So truth is your religion. Right. So I've just come along to tell you what the truth is. So we're using technology to lob things into your face, so that finally we have the ultimate checkmate, where Benedict, I've said, is still the Pope. He never lost his job, and he also knew that I was back prior to the conclave that elected Francis. Now, Francis is a murderer. He's already a murderer from, well, for example, he was the one who worked for the Argentinians that brokered a deal with the French for the Exocet missiles, which killed British in the Falklands War. And so he got a cop back on that. Something like $200 million for these, or maybe more, for the Exocet missiles that they was using to kill the British soldiers with, over a bloody island called the Falklands. Like, who cares? Like, give it to the Argentinians, right? Who needs it? But yeah, that's what the British is all about. They're as evil as the day is long. So we have the checkmate, and that is Pluto. Now, what I've done so far in the PowerPoint is quite extraordinary, and I'm probably going to take another 2 hours to finish it. It puts it all together in a way that's undeniable, because you can look the numbers up yourself. You can even do it on the internet. You can download various programs, and Solar System Scope, for example. You want the older version if you can get it, because it's not connected to the internet. Anything that's connected to the internet, they can change. And I've told you that about Google Earth, for example. They do it all the time. If I measure something, they'll go and measure it, change it, especially over long distances. They'll change it by 7, 8, 10, 20 miles, or kilometres or so forth. So when we look at the distances we can measure from all of the planets, and come up with a 3168, which gives us dates where the duration is sometimes only for a few days or a few hours. Well, we've got September the 11th, 2010. We've got July the 20th, 2009. We've got July the 11th, 2011. Now this is the first one. Well, I go to the second one, July the 20th, 2009. The Sun to Pluto. July the 11th, 2011. Saturn to Pluto. August the 1st, 2004. Uranus to Pluto. May the 7th to the 25th, 1976. Neptune to Pluto. October the 30th. Just for one day. Earth to Pluto. And it was from 4 a.m. to 1:14 the next day on the 31st of October. So we got 4 a.m. on the 30th to the 1:14 on the 31st of October for 1274 minutes. Just in hours, that's 1260, there's your revelation number. Then you got the moons of Pluto. You got Charon, Nix, Hydra, Kerberos and Styx. So you know the devil said, sit down, you're on the river Styx. This is the boat of Charon, which is all to do with Pluto, Hades, hell, the god of the underworld, so to speak. Well, this is what I'm bringing back to the earth. Now, whoever named it, I don't care. The point is, it is what it is. And they've had songs about it, of course. Hoagie Carmichael, I think, wrote a song about it. The devil all said, sit down, you're on the river Styx. Well, the devil's going to drag you under. With a soul so heavy you'll never float. Sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down, you're rocking the boat. Is what he wrote. I think it was him. But in any case, it is the reward for the evil of the earth, which are Jews. Now, we've got Putin in Russia saying, yesterday, made an announcement that the US and the Jews behind 9/11, behind the tsunami in Aceh, and also, what was the other one? Aceh was one tsunami.
Oh, the Bali bombings.
And the Bali bombing. Now, the Bali bombing.
Wasn't that right, Joel? The Bali bombings?
And Damascus.
Damascus,
And
of
Damascus
course.
bombing.
The destruction. Yes, yeah.
So it's all America. Now why? Because first off, you've got a homosexual faggot that is with a transvestite, Michelle Obama. Transgender.
Yes.
Whoever the children are, probably kidnapped from some whoever. We can look into that later. But Skull and Bonesman, Skull and Bones' name is Undertaker. How is it possible that a Christian nation could let Jews run the nation that all have dual passports, Israelis? That is not a religion. It is a demonic entity with a Skull and Bonesman that is the nickname or the Skull and Bonesman name, Undertaker, And then you've got George Bush Jr., who is the grandson of Aleister Crowley, the most evil man in his own mind on earth. And then Barbara Bush was his daughter, married to a skull and bonesman, George Bush Sr., who was head of the CIA at the time of Reagan, then becomes president, and this is the one that announces the New World Order, blatantly. I'm stunned by you Americans, I really am. Now, Australia has a treaty with the Americans, Australia and New Zealand, and wherever America goes to war, Australia goes to war. And it also goes to war wherever the British are. So Australia's been in more wars and more death on their hands than other nations that are proportionately, because they've been in the World War I, World War II, Korean War, Malaysian conflict, Vietnam, the Iraq twice, Afghanistan, and they're using plutonium bullets. Now, I think that every general, commander-in-chief and Prime Minister of Australia should be hung. No trial, just hang them. It's not something that says, oh, maybe they... No, just hang them. So when you have another one, you say, see that carcass hanging in there in the front lawn of your Parliament building? It's the last Prime Minister. Hang him. So make a mistake and don't listen to God in the flesh, that's me, you're going to get hung. That's what it's called, rule with a rod of iron. Now we're going for time.
We've got about 8 minutes to go.
Well, you go for it. No, I've done enough.
All right. I'll read parts of this document that we're just referring to. This is from Gordon Duff, who writes to Press TV. I tweeted him last night as well. Russia opens files on nuclear 9/11 and Israeli proliferation. He says the report below is taken from an intelligence dump by Russian sources, as the origin is from an intelligence agency in the form of a leak. There are always questions. Thus far, we have found not only is the majority of the material confirmed, but several solutions to serious problems involving 9/11 are included. I have redacted little here, however, this arrived with vast supporting documentation which can, in the future, be uploaded on Scribd for access. One key area is that the US had supplied Israel with surplus nuclear weapons. Then he has editor's note, we are advised that some of the documentation can never be uploaded or distributed for reasons that will be obvious. We have a very solid confirmation on this. Back during the 1980s, Israel showed her inventory of Davy Crockett tactical nuclear warheads to one of our editors, who at the time was a senior NATO intelligence official. These early micro-nukes were taken out of US inventory in 1978 and disappeared. This highly classified report is being published unaltered except for bad machine translation errors being repaired. My personal opinion is that this is not a disinformation piece, but rather represents a significant breakthrough. I believe that this is a rare glimpse behind the curtain. I am publishing this for the use of those qualified to understand how little of this is really new. Those things that are new are groundbreaking. For those who find this all a bit over their heads, there is little I can do other than to let you know that this is the world your elders really live in, and that you finally have a chance to look in Mum and Dad's top dresser drawer. Okay, the Dave Crockett, that's a rocket.
It's got a nuclear missile on it.
Yeah, too classified to
Little
publish.
thing.
According to a retired FXX agent, specialising in Israeli counter-intel, the type of nuclear devices used on 9/11 were a modified version of the W-54 nuclear artillery shells that were covertly provided to the Israelis between 1988 and 1998 from US surplus stockpiles illegally exported during the Bush-Clinton era. Chemical analysis done by the Department of Energy, Sandy, was able to identify the chemical radiation footprint or fingerprint of the warheads based on samples taken after 9/11 of the fallout at Ground Zero. All plutonium-based warheads have a chemical fingerprint that can identify the type of design and where the PU was taken and how old it is. This was the 9/11 blackmail on Bush 1 and 2, the illegal transfer of surplus US nuclear weapons to the Israelis, and why the continued cover-up, along with the stolen gold and stock fraud that was going on Wall Street, etc. According to file ENW57 on page 66, okay, the editor is saying the document received and confirmed. Only a 2 kiloton device was needed to drop the buildings. A 2 kiloton device will produce a fireball of approximately 150 to 200 feet in diameter at over 4,000 degrees centigrade, just large enough to melt the beams of the central core of the building and drop them in place. The light flash would last less than 1 second and primarily be in the UV light range. Overpressure would only be at 60 psi max and directed upwards with the blast. See underground effect. Fallout would be minimal and located to within ground zero range only. Radiation would drop to acceptable levels within 72 hours after the blast. Most fallout was trapped in the cement dust, thus causing all of the recent cancer deaths we are now seeing in NYC amongst first responders. Melted steel and iron oxide, or nanothermite, is a byproduct of the very high gamma ray neutron flux induced into the central steel core. The radiation dissolves the steel into iron oxide, consuming the carbon and silicon in the steel. This explains the missing steel columns and the very important clue of the vaporized 20-ton antenna tower atop the South Tower. The upward blast of radiation literally vaporized it. Video evidence proves this to be true. The total XXOO data file from DOE Sandia on the 9/11 event is well over 72 megabytes. P.S. Snowden... Oh, no, that's the size of the file.
Oh,
now, this goes on to Snowden. P.S. Snowden didn't have a Q clearance, so he missed this one. Carnaberry had a pretty good stash of documents on the subject, all under the transit stuff. The entire nuclear non-proliferation story of stolen nuclear material coming from Russia was an Israeli cover story to hide the original source of weapons coming from the US stockpiles. Editor's note, fully confirmed. Illegal distribution of US nuclear material to foreign allies was not limited to Israel. Virtually all NATO allies were in on this scam too. Dick Cheney was the bad guy on this one. Bush too and Cheney traded nuclear pits to foreign country as IOUs in order to get what they wanted. Tom Countryman, a well-known Israeli operative, is curiously now in charge of NNP at the State Department, that's non-nuclear proliferation, at the State Department under Obama. He was put there by Ram Emanuel. It appears that the weapon of choice for the Israelis were the W-54 and follow-on series of nuclear pits taken from the Amarillo, Texas storage dump. This was what Carnaberry was working on for Bush Sr. in Houston. A total of over 350 pits were transferred to the Israelis over a 10 to 20 year period of time. The W-54 type of pit design were the most desirable due to the two-point implosion pit design. This is the easiest to remanufacture and modify as compared to other circular pit designs.
Well, they use the same thing in Fukushima, right?
Yes, look, I'll stop here. This can go up. Joel's got to get it up, and I'll continue reading in the next show. Okay?
All right.
Right. Can you go in and get from Joel the...
I can just bring it out.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Oh,
Now, the camera's still rolling, so is there anything you want to say? Maybe tomorrow, maybe today, we'll have the PowerPoint done, because when I start doing these things,
yes.
it goes off in all different directions, because I want to make absolutely certain that we're building the scaffold to hang all these bastards, right? Now, if you're a Jew, you better stop being it. Right? There will never be a Jew in any position of power from henceforth. I'm declaring Australia the kingdom of God. This is all going out to every politician in the country. It's going out to every politician in the world. It's going out to every dignitary. It's going to everybody. Right? Now, I want you all to start looking at tweeting all these bastards and nice people, all your movie stars. You can get a list of people that's got 20 million followers or 5 million followers or 4 million followers.
Yes,
Oprah, for example, seems like a person that would be interested in knowing what the truth is, because she's got her own little religion going there. Right? So at any given moment, what's happening is, let's say Oprah's got 20 million people following her on Twitter. They don't tweet to her, they just watch what's going on. But when you say, look at the fact that Benedict, for the first time in history of the Catholic Church, repented when he spoke to me, and he accepted me as being Salvador Mundi, which is Saviour of the world, which is what it's all about. God in the flesh. Now, you can take our information that is, as I'm talking to you people that are our followers now, and start tweeting all these people. And you put in it the address for the letter and of the Apostolic letter of the Pope.
Yes, I've got it up at the Facebook. A lot of you have already
Okay,
seen
so
it.
well, you've got it. Now you start
Short and sweet.
round the clock. Everybody that's on Twitter, especially with large numbers, because if you've got 20 million followers, there's always somewhere, someone in the world, 4,000 or 5,000 people are going to be watching, and they're not necessarily going to be quoting anything, but when they see it pop up, they're going to read it. And then they'll go and look at the Apostolic letter. Now, the Apostolic letter now is how many views, Dan?
Refresh.
This is a scrib site, that's the SCRIBD site, Apostolic letter. Roman Pontiff.
7477, so it's gone up 477 since yesterday morning when I first checked it. It was 7,000 on the knocker. And that's because I spent a couple of hours last night going through those tweets. I could see it going up every 30 minutes. It was going up faster than we've ever seen it. So this is for us.
Well, it seems to be the way that you can catch up with the news getting out there, because this is the biggest story of all time.
Yeah, short and sweet.
That Christ is back, the Pope's recognised it, that's a slam dunk right there. But he got arrested on the April the 3rd, which, not knowing, probably the Pope himself didn't know, but certainly Francis wouldn't have known because he's a moron. That's the anniversary of the crucifixion in 33 AD, April the 3rd. So, the Pope said to me that he wanted my followers to get out there and tell the world what's going on.
Yes.
Use your technology.
That's why he wrote the letter for Yahweh's followers to use technology.
He's
to
talking
get
to
the
you.
news out.
Not to me, he's talking to you. Then we've got the letter from Sister Della Rosa.
That's at the scrib site as well.
And the traitor is George Canswain, the guy that looks like Steve McQueen. Real handsome bastard, right? Gay as a Mardi Gras. Right? Freemason, monster. Also, why was Hitler? And always, no matter you see movies, war movies, always Hitler the dog, right? Why? What was the problem? Well, it was the Jews that declared war on Hitler. Why? Because he was working for the people. He said, unless you stop the Jews, the earth will be left a lifeless orb floating in the ether of space. And that is what Fukushima is. Now, can I fix Fukushima? Yeah, I can fix it. I've got to get you on board though. As soon as I get you on board, I can fix it. So, wait for the next upload. We'll be talking about the significance of the 3168. As you know, the combined distances out to the planets from Jupiter when I was born was 31.68 astronomical units. But Pluto, which is my reward for the beast, the Jews, and all the politicians that go along with it, all newspapers, all media, all stock market, traders, you're all in for the high jump, I'm telling you. All of you. So we've got Hell, River Styx, Pluto, various states, 31.68 astronomical units, lining up for January 11th, 1944, when all the planets from Jupiter to Saturn and all the smaller planets into the Sun, 31.68. And the Pope was 31680 days old on my 70th birthday. See what I'm saying? If you think I ain't going to win, you're making a very large, very big, the greatest mistake you'll ever make in your lifetime if you don't get behind me. Is that serious? And it is your future, which ain't going to be happy. Go wake up.